unmuted, and welcome everyone to today's Bird Dog live session show. As you can see, I'm not in my green screen studio. I am traveling, and so I'm at a new location. But that doesn't change the fact that as part of the live show, you have a chance to win Bird Dog Cloud subscriptions. One winner per live show. If you use your phone and scan this QR code, you can have a chance to win. You have to enter, fill out the form, and I will see them come in here because this is a live giveaway during the show. If you're watching the show after it's live, you won't have a chance to win, which is one of the benefits of tuning in live. Or if you're watching on a computer, you can just open another browser and go to bit.ly/BD entry for BirdDog entry. Pretty simple. And this gives you an opportunity to win one of the most powerful NDI-based software. It's a system now. It's not just cloud. It's actually Connect. Actually, I gotta update this graphic. It should say Connect. It's BirdDog Connect because it's more than just cloud. It's a whole suite of applications that enable you to do a whole host of features. If you haven't seen BirdDog Connect, there are 2 live shows that you can tune in that give you just a glimpse of all the different things that BirdDog Connect offers to you, and you have a whole year to see how it's working. So as always, I love to say welcome to everyone for joining the show. If you haven't already chimed in, let me know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions during this live show, feel free to throw them into the comments because we are getting the comments live and we can bring your question into the show itself. In the news, we have, if you haven't already heard the IBC news, the XL Ultra is out, the 04 Outdoor is out. People have been asking about an outdoor camera. Well, it's back. And the X1 30X. People have been asking about a longer zoom range. It's back. And of course, cam control is updated for all of these new cameras as well. But honestly, I'm probably not the best person to be talking about these things. The best person to talk about these things would be Dan himself. And I happen to have him right here with me. Hey, Dan, thank you very much for being here.
Anthony, great to be here. I know it's all sorts of weird times for you and also for the show. The good thing is I don't need to be sort of opening up my eyes with toothpicks at 4 in the morning this time. So it's great.
Yes, yes. And we're also trying out a whole different viewership too, because now this is live across all of Europe, Africa, the Middle East, India, and the Pacifics. So anyone in those markets is free to tune in. And like I says, if people are watching in those markets, feel free to tell us where you're watching from. And as always, if you have any questions, throw them in at any time. So let me go back to that first slide here. And we can talk a little bit about each of these different announcements that came out at NAB. The XL Ultra is a large sensor camera. It's big.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this. So hang on, I've got to get my angles right. It's over here. The one that I'm pointing to now, which you can't quite see on the screen, just on the edge there. XL Ultra is really our flex in terms of what you can do with a PTZ camera. I'm super, super excited to not only announce it, but have it ready for shipping. XL Ultra is more than what you'd expect from any type of PTZ camera. It's got a massive sensor in there. It's a 4/3 sensor, the kind of thing you'd normally see in a digital camera for photography and things like that, or even some of those cinema type cameras use 4/3 sensors. So having something that big does 2 things. It gives you a huge amount of light coming in, which means it's great for low light performance, but it also gives you a really great control of depth of field. So if you're doing any sort of creative shots where you want to get some nice bokeh behind you or have really good control over focus, having that big sensor makes it really, really flexible. Now, the cool thing with XL Ultra is that it also has a long zoom. So quite often you'll find that if you've got a big sensor, the zoom gets smaller. And then it becomes a problem if you're trying to use it for cinematic or really high quality looking video. You then have to have it really close, which doesn't work so well for things like theatres and stages where you need to have the camera maybe further back so there's room for the audience or whatever else might be on stage. Now, having a 20 times zoom in there gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you a huge amount of flexibility while also giving you that large sensor. So really, really excited about that. One of the big things that we have, which is a signature of all of the BirdDog products, is it's got a halo tally on it, which is basically that the big light that goes around the lens, which shows your talent which camera to look at. Now, what we've started to do with these is make them fully multicolors. So that means if you've got a talk show or something like that, you can tell your presenter to look at the blue camera or the pink camera, whatever you'd like. And you can color code these cameras around that halo tally as well. It's really striking and actually really functional. But getting back into some of the other cool things, and I'm conscious that I'm going to talk forever. I love talking about my products.
That's
but
okay.
We've got the e-ink displays on there, so it's really easy to see the configurations. But if you look at the bottom of the camera in the base, there's a really cool surprise. It's got a second camera in there. And that second camera is a really wide angle. It's about 100 degrees field of view. It's not only there for motion tracking, which it does a great job of helping out for AI tracking and things. The XL does a huge amount of tracking in terms of its capabilities, but it's also a secondary NDI camera that's also 4K 60. It happens to be a really large sensor as well. It's bigger than what you'd have in most PTZ cameras at 1/1.8. So you're getting two cameras in one with a huge amount of control, awesome picture quality. And I could talk for another half an hour about the connectivity on the back as well. But suffice to say, it will connect with anything you've got in terms of a live production, of course, including NDI and high bandwidth NDI as well.
Right, and that is a key thing, that I think a lot of people might miss a little bit, is that the X line so far has been pretty much HX, but this is the return to both HX and full NDI.
Absolutely. So one really important thing is the X series of cameras is all HX3. And I'd love to do maybe another episode sometime to talk about different flavors of NDI. But for us, we waited for HX3 before we put that into our cameras because we don't want to have latency in our cameras. So our cameras, a lot of people associate full NDI versus HX with low latency versus low bandwidth. HX3 in a lot of cases is that Goldilocks format. But when you're going up to this higher end camera where you're going 4K 60, you've got a huge amount of detail, having that full bandwidth does give you some advantage as well. So we haven't let you sort of have to pigeonhole yourself in this system. You can choose and actually stream them both at the same time. So you can have high bandwidth going to your vision switcher and then HX going to maybe some overflow rooms where you want to have a split to see what the camera looks like or see what's on stage without needing that high bandwidth as well. So it really gives you the best of both worlds.
Right, and especially in terms of a production, you can use the full NDI for your main feed, and then, like you said, send the lower bandwidth HX3 to multiple locations, managing your bit rates across the network.
Yeah, it makes it super easy for integrating in any environment.
And as I saw you mention at NAB, you've got NDI feeds from both the cameras at the same time.
So you get NDI feeds from both the cameras at the same time. So you have two cameras, two NDI outputs from the XL Ultra, but you actually get a third NDI output, which is your high bandwidth one. And that's where you can choose for high bandwidth which camera you'd like to have on that as well. So you've actually got three NDI outputs plus all of your SDIs and HDMIs and SRTs and everything else. It's a beast of a camera.
All right, let's not. We got a few cameras to go through, so let's keep going. Okay, the next one is the 04 outdoor.
Yep. So that one's on the far. Now I'm confused. The far right, left, that side there, the white one there. So the 04. This is I think one of our more exciting cameras. Outdoor applications for PTZ cameras. There's huge amounts of them. You probably gravitate towards sport production. 04 is built for this. It's got super fine control. It's got a 30 times zoom in there, so it's really great for zooming in and getting in on all the action. It has an amazing mounting system, so you can mount it to anything from a pole to a wall to a corner to an inverted corner. Anything you'd like, you can mount it onto, and it looks super neat when it's installed. Some of the interesting things it's got beneath the surface, though, on top of that super smooth control, It's got a large sensor, so it's a 1/1.8. Most 4K 60 PTZs use a smaller sensor. So we've got a larger sensor in there. It's got a 30 times optical zoom on that as well. So 30 times optical means that you can, like I said, zoom right in on the action. When you're running it in HD mode, though, you can run it at 60 times optical zoom. So this is great for getting a whole bunch of detail. But this is where there's other uses for the O4 as well. Anything from weather cameras to where you wanted to see the action from a long way away, whether it's a live event that's happening and you want to have a camera that's viewing it from afar. Having that 30 times in 4K or 60 times in HD optical zoom gives you a huge amount of flexibility with this. This thing's built to work anywhere in the world at any time. So it's -40 to +60 Celsius. Now that's -40 or so in Fahrenheit to a lot in Fahrenheit as well. So it basically can work anywhere on the planet. And of course, it's IP66 rated. So rain, hail, shine, it'll withstand all of that.
But it's missing the windshield wiper.
It doesn't have a windshield wiper, no, but we actually deliberately did this. So it's a bit hard to see behind me, but I think we've got some pictures of it a bit later on. It's actually got two lenses in there. One of them's got an infrared laser, so you can light up as far as you like, up to 500 meters or 500 yards in pitch dark, and it will still see it. But the lens on the front is actually made of what's called hydrophobic glass. And it sounds all nerdy and everything. Basically, it's the stuff they put on aeroplanes and other kind of mission critical devices where the water just drips away, the dust can't stick to it. What we've found, this is our second generation of outdoor cameras. In the previous generation, we had one camera that was with a wiper and one that was without. And the one with the wiper had failures with the wiper mechanisms because you're out and about and it's moving and there's holes in the enclosure. But also the fact that the wiper blade, if you've got it in ice, then it freezes up. If it's in melting hot, then it kind of gums up. It doesn't actually do what you'd expect it to do. So for us, treating the glass with really high-tech surface treatment gives actually a much better result than actually trying to put a wiper on there. So it was all very calculated and very much a decision in when we were designing this.
So and again, it's got full connectivity.
Oh yes, this thing. Again, this one's got high bandwidth or full NDI as well as NDI HX3. So it'll stream them both at the same time as well. So again, live productions, you can use the high bandwidth NDI, and for monitoring and seeing that around the building, you've got HX there as well. But it's also got 12G SDI built into it. It's got fiber optic connections. And it's also got audio connectors as well. So actually plug in a microphone to your weatherproof camera.
Excellent. And and we're just looking at the website here. I love how clean it is against the wall. It's not just the camera, it's the camera and the mount. Because that's always been a challenge for mounting PTZ cameras, but it looks like building this camera actually went all the way to the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. So PTZ cameras don't need to look like security cameras. And in a lot of cases, you've got this beautiful building, and then you've got these security cameras that look like Big Brother's watching you. And we decided that actually we want this to look like it's actually a piece of the architecture. It actually looks like it belongs on the building, and the mounts really do make it look super, super neat. It makes it the complete package rather than just being a camera that's hanging on a pole. So,
and let's close that. And I think so. What is this AI tracking that you've got built into this thing as well?
Yeah, so we are spending a lot of time. BirdDog's background, for those of you that have followed us along over the years, we started out with innovation. That's where the idea of NDI going into hardware was something that we started making into actual devices. And all along the way, we've always provided updates for all of our products. So we added in a bunch of functions for our first generation of PTZ cameras that just keep evolving the capabilities. And for us, AI is that next thing that's happening. So a lot of devices you'll see now have got AI tracking. It's become almost like a tick box. But for us, we're developing that further and further. And so things like in the O4 camera and the XL, we're flexing again in terms of the AI capabilities that we can do. So it's got motion tracking for people, but now you've got control over how fast that eases in and out. You've got control over what happens when people enter a zone or out of a zone, how natural that movement looks, or how fast it needs to be if you need to track things immediately. We can also, if we've got a stage event, for example, we can make sure that we're blocking off certain areas, and the camera effectively operates by itself in a way that's much more tailored than if you just had a simple AI tracking that a lot of cameras have got now. So it gives you a bunch of extra capabilities. But having that in and outdoor camera is actually pretty unique, and we think it's actually got quite a lot of cool use cases, especially for stage events or some of the sporting events where you might have maybe some halftime acts and things like that, where you want to follow people around, or presentation ceremonies, and you can leave it on auto and it'll actually track those people.
And I think that's a key difference, because a lot of times when people think of an outdoor camera, you think of, like you said, a security camera, and those things are herky-jerky. Those are not cinema cameras. And this is designed so that you really can deliver a broadcast type look and feel from that camera.
For sure, and that's something we really take into account with any camera that we make, really, is that it's, you can move a camera, a PTZ, you can make it move wherever you like, but making it look nice when it moves is something that's really important.
Now it might, some people might think this is the smallest announcement, but I think it's one of those examples where people have been asking, where's the long lens? Where's the long lens? Where's the 30X? Because a lot of people really love to have that long lens, that long zoom. And so we've got the X1 30X, the long lens, back into the lineup.
Yep, absolutely. Actually, when you say back into the lineup, we haven't really had a 30X. The P200, our very first camera, was a 30X, but actually the P100, which is really where the X1 sits in our lineup, the lower end, was only 20 times as well. So this is actually, it is going further than we've ever done before for this type of camera. But as much as we were talking about these high-end cameras like the XL and the 04, they're great and they're amazing pieces of technology for what they do. But the workhorses of everyone's productions are these smaller cameras that kind of fade away into the background. You don't see them, but they give you the pictures and the angles that you need for anything from a live production to a church to a meeting room to whatever kind of events that you might have in corporates. These little cameras actually give you a huge amount of flexibility. So X1 is an absolute powerhouse, and now having that 30 times zoom means that you can fit it into any space and get amazing shots. So I think this actually is going to be the, I'm saying it here live, I think this is going to be probably our most popular camera, just because of having that combination of features that it has in terms of the highest quality NDI HX3, lowest latency on the market. It is super, super fast for any type of live production. It's also got all of our new signature features. So it has the e-ink display and the halo tally, but this thing's got an NDI decoder in it as well. So you can send NDI to the X1 30 times, and it'll output it out to a screen, which is awesome for anything from stage drops to any type of presentation confidence monitors and things like that. And then the other party pieces, of course, is Wi-Fi. So having a camera that can have a 30 times zoom with Wi-Fi as well, it's a pretty neat box. So.
Yeah, and I think, not to undersell that return feed, I've seen, the need for this, especially if you're doing conferences and you've got cameras on either side of the stage. One's looking at the moderator, one's looking at the guests and everything. And to have the program return to those things, they can see
absolutely
what the shot is. The moderator can see when he's on camera. He can see when, it really does help inform those people on stage what's going on. Also,
it makes a big difference. And I'll actually say, when you said it's not to undersell this, I think we have undersold this. I think this is a massive feature for these cameras. So we'll be doing a lot of different use case kind of videos and things in the coming couple of weeks and months. But having decode inside a camera is an amazing feature that can really help simplify, but also unlock a huge amount of power in a production.
Absolutely. And as someone who uses the cameras, not having to run a separate video line just for a monitor on stage, or down below the front of stage and everything, and have it already be there as part of the camera that I'm already running to the stage, is a lot of convenience and a time saver too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I think it means that if you're doing remote productions where you're bringing your gear along, it's just less boxes you need to carry, less cables you need to run, less complexity to troubleshoot if something goes wrong.
So, and then it notes here that cam control has been updated for all of these cameras. So once again, keep your software and your cameras updated.
Absolutely. And we love updating our software, our features, firmware, and things. It's something that actually probably sets us apart from other companies, and it's all for very deliberate reasons. But cam control is one of these applications that we've had for a number of years now, and this alone is a reason to look at a BirdDog camera. The cam control application is super, super powerful. What it gives you is the ability to have 4 cameras in side by side and adjust all of the settings within that camera just on a screen. So if you're doing any kind of live production where you've got multiple cameras, having that on a screen, could be a touch screen, you can just go and adjust, recall presets, adjust your exposure as the day goes on and the lighting changes. It means you don't need to drop in and out of web user interfaces or mess around. You've got an actual console where you can see everything. It's almost like an RCP type thing for a broadcast arrangement where you've got all of the controls of the camera directly in front of you. So it's a super cool app. The good thing is now we've got this with all of the updates we've had in firmware on the X series cameras. We can now control all of those within cam control. And actually, even if you have some of our previous generation P series cameras, you can now mix and match. You can actually work with all of them within the one application. So if you haven't tried cam control before, give it a go. It's actually a super cool application that'll change the way you do kind of multi-camera productions.
And I want to bring up the image of this because
there you go.
For people who that have to match multiple cameras, switching between the web interfaces, or let me open 2 different web browsers, this solves that. And as it says right there, it's 100% free. So the ability to sit there and have multiple cameras on stage from multiple different types of, it's like you've got the large sensor, you've got the 30X, you've got a little one, maybe even 2 maxes, really close on stage, and you want to make sure that the color matches all the way across and it's seamless. This is a fantastic way to be able to see them all on the same monitor, with the same color space, so that when you're doing adjustments, you're not looking at them on 2 different program monitors or 2 different confidence monitors.
Absolutely.
This really does make a big difference.
It's super cool. So the latest generation of that, the version it's live in our user group. So if you haven't joined our user group, jump in there as well. There's about 10,000 helpful people in there. So if there's any questions you've got, I'm in there all the time as well. So I'm happy to jump in and roll up my sleeves if you've got any curly questions. But at the moment, that's the latest version of that is in there. It's going live on our website next week. So.
And I think this really does show that, there are a lot of advancements going on, and you guys have been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. This large sensor. I mean, that is something, people like, because Sony came out with basically a DSLR with a lens on a PTZ. Mm-hmm. People were like, oh my goodness, full size 35 millimeter sensor PTZ. That's pretty cool. It's a bit unwieldy still, because you have to balance the lens, and you can't just put any old lens on there. You were able to, like you says, have this large sensor, but still have a long zoom, and that's really important.
It really is, and it is. They're horses for courses, right? There is absolutely a place for if you wanted to have your large lenses and things, but that is very much in a lot of ways a niche kind of setup where you have to balance things, like you say, and get things set up. And then if you want to change that view, you have to then change the camera, the lens, and all that kind of assembly. And it takes a lot of time. Having an inbuilt device that's got the large sensor, that's got a 20 times zoom, that's completely calibrated to that sensor, it means that you can just plug it in, turn it on, and get the benefits of it rather than having to kind of geek out in setting it up.
Speaking of the XL, what is the SDI output delay of the XL?
That's a good question. So I'm going to be very honest here. I don't have the number in here, but one thing to note is that the XL has Genlock. So it is very, very low latency. It's designed to be in sync with the frames that are there. So whilst nothing can be zero latency, it is our lowest latency camera that we have. And
I think, Genlock itself is something that is very important, because a lot of people are, at the broadcast end, you have switchers that assume that the cameras are Genlocked. But at the corporate level and things like that, people are using switchers that assume that every camera is not Genlocked, and they all recalibrate every frame coming in from every camera.
Yeah.
So having
So
that gen lock available is important.
well, it is, and there's for two reasons. One is that it brings the whole point of it is it brings all the cameras in sync. It also allows you to reduce latency. So if you've got a switcher that has frame sync on every source, the nature of frame sync is it adds a frame of delay. If you use gen lock, there's no frame of delay. So it actually will reduce the overall latency in your data path if you've got a camera that's got gen lock in there. But also, if you've got a larger switcher, so you'll find a lot of production switches that are beyond 16 inputs, they'll only have a certain number of inputs that have frame sync. And so if you've got a bunch of cameras, it starts to get expensive to use cameras that don't have gen lock because you've only got a limited amount of those inputs when you can't take advantage of the larger amount of inputs. So having a gen locked camera, if you're running in an SDI workflow, really does give you true benefits in terms of the scalability of your production and also trimming in that latency for anything from IMAG or stage-based video.
Yeah, and definitely IMAG is where people I hear ask about it the most because that image has to come in, and they say glass to glass, but glass to screen.
Yeah,
So
every frame
so
counts,
far behind.
and they all stack up, and it stacks up very quickly, right? So.
Yes, it does. Before we go on, I also wanted to remind people who are watching to scan and win. Thank you for helping to point. And I'll point at this one. You can register to win BirdDog Connect. And again, if you haven't seen the shows that we've done on Connect, there are 2 shows in the live section on YouTube. Go check those out. Connect is very deep. I know it says cloud here, but somehow I ended up.
We need to change that. So, yeah.
I know I did change it, but now that I'm traveling, apparently the graphic that was still loaded in here from previously was the cloud one. So I apologize. When I get back to the studio, next show will be from the studio and I will have the correct graphic. But anyway, you go to bit.ly BD entry for BirdDog entry. There will be a form to fill out for entry. And we've got some entries coming in already. And then what I'll do is put them into the BirdDog contest wheel live in this show. So you must enter during the show in order to win the contest. If you're watching this tomorrow, you'll get to see who the winner was.
That's it, yes. Well, good luck to everyone that's going to be on there. So it's I'm conscious it's a different time zone, so there might not be as many live viewers this time. So you might have a good chance if you jump in. So.
That's exactly true. That's exactly true. Like we're trying this out. This is a whole different audience for this show, a whole different live audience. Now, everybody who watches it afterwards, because there's hundreds of views after the fact, everyone who watches this live, it's daytime in a whole different area than how we normally do it. So we're giving this a try and see how it works. So enter the win. I'm leaving this up extra long just to help those people.
Nice.
And as always, if you have any questions about the topics today, feel free to throw them in, or any BirdDog product. Feel free to throw them into the comments themselves. I want to go back to that deck a little bit, and because I went back, but I didn't go forward. So I wanted to go forward. And
no problem.
Also make sure that, it's you. And I think you say that the BirdDog lineup is complete. Are we complete? Let me ask that question. Are we complete, or you could say, without saying what the announcement is, you might say there's still more?
Look, let's be honest. It's technology, so we're never complete. What we have now is a full lineup of products from here to here. So we have a bunch of different products that now. Effectively, the point here is that we have a product that can fit pretty much any kind of production or any application that you might have. Of course, we always have surprises in store, so we are pretty excited about some other things that are coming up. But at the same time, we've now got everything from a low budget kind of entry level camera that's great for influencers or small spaces or esports, all the way through to our outdoor and XL cameras. And a really interesting thing, we were talking just briefly about the IBC show last week. A really interesting little bit of a social experiment that I found is when we were talking about the XL and the 04, people went, I see it. Now you've got a full lineup. It makes sense. Where previously we had the X1 and people sort of knew what that was, or they knew what the X5 was, and they kind of almost pigeonholed themselves into thinking what a BirdDog camera might be. So now we do have a complete lineup. of cameras. Of course, we're going to can continue to push the envelope and have new exciting things. But you can certainly, with confidence, look at this lineup and say what BirdDog is offering here is something that's going to be around for quite some time, because it has an application for pretty much every kind of use case.
Now, you mentioned wireless, and it actually came up in the last show. A viewer asked online, they had a question, and we do have another question to come from our audience as well. They asked about the Wi-Fi receiver, I'll call it, and what is the timeline on that? Because we've seen it, but if you go hunting around for information on it, it's kind of scarce.
I don't have one here. I was going to grab one and sort of say it is a real thing. The reality is that product is pretty much ready to go. Where actually Wi-Fi is a bit tricky in certification land. So really the delay is in the certification side, and it's actually the state's side of the certification. So we're still working through it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where I can't say, engineers, you need to work over the weekend to make it happen faster. It's certification. So it kind of comes with its own timeline. So we're pushing as hard as we can. It is just down to we're certainly not interested in selling a product that's not certified. And having Wi-Fi, having high-powered Wi-Fi does create a set of challenges around that. So we're still working through that. It is real. We have been using it ourselves and things in terms of testing. Firmware is all looking great. It is just a procedural matter. So unfortunately, I can't say it's going to be ready next week because it's just not. That's not the case. It's when the certification gods come back to us with the tick, then we can move on with it. So in the meantime, I understand that it can be frustrating for people. We've had a great deal of success with Netgear, their Pro line of Wi-Fi hotspots. So if you do need to get something working with NDI and with wireless, and certainly with our cameras, the Pro series of Netgear Wi-Fi hotspots do work great. So I'm conscious that we don't want to keep people from getting their setup working in the meantime.
Right, and I think the key is, that you guys have realized that not all Wi-Fi is created equal, and people, now that the BirdDog cameras have Wi-Fi in them, there is the chance that people will say, "Oh, I can just use my whatever Wi-Fi," and then when they get dropped frames and things like that.
That was amazing. That was perfect. I'm not sure if anyone else can still hear me, but he was talking about drop frames and then he's dropped out. So I'm not sure if someone can type into the chat whether you can still hear me or whether we are not live at the moment. I'll keep talking for a little bit. So we're talking about Wi-Fi not being necessarily the same for everything. And I've got a great example of that with my home Wi-Fi. It's really fast for everything, and you do a speed test and it works fantastically. Unfortunately, when you are running that Wi-Fi with NDI, it just can't handle it. So that's one of these mesh home systems. And that's where we decided, and that's kind of the catalyst for us to bring back in our own NDI sort of friendly version of a Wi-Fi hotspot. I'm not sure whether Anthony's going to come back in. So hopefully you guys can still hear me. I don't have control, so you're kind of stuck with me full screen for the moment. I'll talk for a little bit, and if it doesn't work anymore, then I'll refresh the screen. So from here, what we're going to talk about, past the Wi-Fi and integration side of things, is the fact that BirdDog actually do a lot of this engineering ourselves. There's a lot of different cameras out there, and we certainly recognise that everyone's got a choice with those cameras. But a lot of them look awfully similar. They've got a different label on them. You're not going to see BirdDog cameras with a different label on there. And so that's something we really do focus on. Okay, good. It's me live. That's great to hear. Hopefully Anthony can get back in. If not, I'll continue the show till it stops. So back to the ground up design that we do. So like I was saying, you're not going to see other cameras that look like BirdDog cameras. So for us, it really is a big deal that we brought out this whole lineup of cameras. So everything from our Marquee Ultra and Marquee Lives all the way through to our outdoor cameras. Hey, he's back. I started to talk about the next slide, but I couldn't bring it up. So.
No, I apologize for that. Internet difficulties where I'm at, and but I am back. And I will do that. I will bring up that next slide. And
I think it's the next one. Yeah, there we go. So I was remember what the slide was. That's good. So basically what we've done with all of our cameras, and the great example with this is things like the new XL, but also all the way back to the X1, is we handpick and select the sensor that we use. Now, we use Sony sensors across the board, but we use specific Sony sensors in all of our cameras. And then we choose the glass that goes in there. We choose a system or the motor control units that we have. There's a lot of things that go into building up a BirdDog camera. And then, of course, we've got our control layer over the top and all of the other bits that we put in there, the integration with all of our other devices. So it really is kind of much more than skin deep. We're not just taking another camera and putting our label on it. We're actually designing these things for the use cases that you guys have in mind. So every one of these cameras has a use case, an application, and comes down to even mounting the applications. Things like our new mounting systems for the XL and the 04, they're all driven by users. It's not just trying to get a product that we can put our label on. And I think that's really important. It's something that separates us from a lot of different cameras that are out there.
We got a couple good questions in here that I want to tackle. They're trying, this person, Andreas, good to see you back. He's a regular viewer. They're trying to match their PTZ, their BirdDogs, with Sony or Panasonic, not PTZ cameras. So, whether it be a corporate camera or on-shoulder camera, is there a way that people can do that? Because obviously the cam controlled software is not going to bring their camera in for that side-by-side view.
So in a lot of ways, this almost feels like a planted question, but it's not. And I'm sure Andreas can verify that as well. With the XL camera, we've actually got color profiles built into it for Panasonic, Sony, and Blackmagic. So if you've got one of those different cameras in a studio environment, it will tune in the base color profile to match those color profiles of those cameras. So we know that a Sony camera's typically got a bit of a warmer kind of feel to it than a Panasonic. Blackmagic's a little bit different again, certainly in the gamma than what you'd see on the other cameras as well. So with the XL and also 04, you can press a button and it puts it into the base profile. And then from there, you've got your choice to either leave it in auto mode or you can start to adjust it from there. But it gets you much closer to a color profile that you'd have in your studio environment. And I guess that kind of gives you a bit of a view into what we're trying to do with our cameras and shows you the level of control that we have in here as well. So as we've been busily building up this new roadmap that we've been, or sorry, not a roadmap anymore, our new product lineup. A lot of these things have kind of been building up and now you're starting to see them come to the surface. So things like the XL and the 04, they've got those color profiles in there from day one. Now, I'm not promising that we're going to have all those color profiles in all of the cameras because there's limited capabilities in some of those and different applications. But one thing we are working on is unifying the base color profile across all of our cameras. So if you had an X1 and an X5, for example, with the latest firmware, they look very, very close to each other. So it means that you can have an A camera that might be an X5 and a couple of lower cost B cameras that are X1s. And without having to do too much tuning, you've got very much a similar image, even though they are fundamentally different cameras. So we are taking all of that color science really quite seriously.
Now, we've talked about 4K and longer zoom range with HD. The Functropolis Metaverse asks, will the X1 Ultra have a firmware update to support 720p60?
The X1 Ultra, sorry, I'm just trying to work through the question. Right, so the X1 will do that. The fundamental difference, though, is with the X1 Ultra, even when you're running in HD, so X1 Ultra is a 4K sensor, even when you're running in HD or 720p, it's still operating the camera at 4K. And so it's actually 4K 30 is the maximum that camera will do. So even if you're working at 1080 or 720, 30 frames is the most you'll get out of that. If you're wanting to run 720-60, then you actually need to go one either side of the X1 Ultra. You could either use the X1 or you could use the X4, and they will both be able to handle that because they can do 60 frames a second.
So it's always sampling at 4K and then downsampling in the camera. I see.
Correct. Yeah, that's the way the X1 Ultra works. Yeah.
He also notes that he's so glad that the cam control with his work with his X1 and X1 Ultra.
I am too.
He also had problems matching colors with the P100 and his X series cameras. So this begs the question: is cam control will also be okay with the first generation?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it a lot easier having them side by side to be able to tune them in. Like if you're trying to switch between interfaces and things, it is harder. Now they are different cameras, and like I said about the color profiles on the X series, we're working at unifying that. There's quite a lot of similarities between the P100 in terms of its color profile and the X series. So with these new controls, you should be able to get quite a lot closer. The one thing I would actually look at, certainly with the X1, if you've looked at that, is anything sort of the newer firmware that's using NDI 6 rather than the 5.5 has got a huge amount of color profile improvements. So you'll see that there's a noticeable and dramatic change to the way the color profile looks on the X1 in newer versions. So if you've tried that previously, it's absolutely worth trying again because we're seeing amazing results with that.
And then
update your firmware.
He also mentions getting a third X1 soon.
Excellent. I like that.
So glad it shows BirdDog.
So I've got my computer's down here, so I'm just looking down and reading it. So I'm glad to hear that. And we're super excited. The X series really is a cool set of cameras. But I'm great to hear that you've been through the whole kind of journey with us. So thanks so much.
I've got a little tickle in my throat, as everybody can hear, but now I'm on this side, so I'm going to say this will be your last chance. We're near the end of the show, so if you haven't already registered for a chance to win a BirdDog Connect subscription, you could use your phone, scan this QR code, or type that in manually, and you'll go to a page with some questions. Let me double check again. We do have entries, and form is working, and then when you fill out the form and hit enter, I will get the results. So this is going to be the last time I put this up to go get entered to win a BirdDog Connect subscription. And as Dan has mentioned in 2 previous shows, if you don't know what Connect can do, there's 2 previous live shows that will tell you a good bit about it, but probably not all.
There's still more.
As Dan keeps telling me, there's still, but wait, there's more.
It's a really amazing platform. So if you don't win, still sign up for free. There's actually another slide at the end here. We have a free tier of Connect coming at the start of next month, which gives you a single channel of connectivity for free. If we maybe just jump to that slide and then we'll come back to the bundles. But with Connect, it does everything from remote production where you can bring in cameras, keep them in sync from one location to another, to taking all of your cameras and making a multi-view in a web browser so you can look at them, but also control PTZ cameras directly in a web browser, through to ISO recording, to routing, to live switching, to sending video to CDNs. I can keep going. There's a huge amount of different capabilities within Connect. So I'm building out some demonstrations and some training, but we've got a couple of videos that Anthony and I did in previous shows that are worth watching. But Connect is a really cool platform. And as you just mentioned, free tier available from October 1st. So you heard it here first, I think. Yeah, absolutely. This is exciting because it gets anyone able to do these remote productions. At times imperfectly, actually, because there was a little known function within the NDI tools that allowed you to bring in a camera remotely, but it was sort of not quite designed to work with all of the true NDI tools. But that's now being taken away with NDI 6.3. So now with Connect, you can get that for free, and it gives you this plus a whole lot more control and a lot of other things. So jump into it. So, and I think this is a great opportunity too, because being able to have the software, open it up, poke around and use it, yes, with limitations, but going in there and saying, you know what, I want to do this, and this looks really useful and everything. And you can only find those things out by diving in, and poking in with the free tier is a great way to start. And then also, like we says, if you enter to win, then you can also have access to the full suite for an entire year. And that's going to make a big difference in terms of learning and figuring out what it can do for you. Eric Chase just says, just caught this. Oops. When I take the one graphic off, it takes both. Stoked to see the outdoor rated cameras.
Any update to the X4 Ultra firmware?
X4 Ultra firmware, you heard it here first, is I believe tomorrow there will be an update to the X4 Ultra firmware. So it's in the building. I can tell you in and around my studio here is X4s using the latest firmware. And there's actually some really cool updates, both convenience ones, but also usability updates on there. And that is literally going live in the next few hours. So keep an eye out on the user group. If you're not in there already, please join. But otherwise, it will be published on the website as well. So.
And then Funktropolis asks, is the FreeD protocol able to connect to Unreal Engine 5?
Yes, absolutely. So we've got 3D in most of our cameras. I'm just looking at the lineup here, so I'm still confused. So X4 has 3D, X5 has 3D, XL has 3D, and 04 has 3D. So all of those will work in full control over the 3D. There is actually 3D in the X1 as well. It's a limited set of functions though, because it's not really designed for doing full immersive reality, but all of our cameras do have the 3D protocol, and it will all work within Unreal Engine 5. I was using it just the other day. So.
And the Quad HX3 update, any chance?
I tell you what, there's some timely questions that are coming through here. Again, in this building, I can confirm that we are able to use HX3 on Quad. We actually at IBC had the encode side of things being displayed and showed there, so it is real. Right now, the engineers are working through the wrapping up of that firmware, but if you want to reach out to me, it's not ready to share as a public beta just yet, but we're probably not far away from being able to do things. Certainly if it's encode, we've got a bunch of things that we can talk about. On the decode side of things, it's just being wrapped up at the moment, but it's certainly not forgotten. I can tell you, I've seen it with my own eyes. So.
And I think we got a couple good woohoo and freaking awesome.
Excellent.
So I think that'll wrap up today's show on a positive note. Dan, thank you very much for joining us live from Australia.
Anytime. Well, anytime that's not 4 o'clock in the morning. So.
Definitely.
Happy to.
And I will look forward to seeing you down the road, possibly on the next show.
Absolutely.
All right, so thank everyone for joining us on today's BirdDog live session. As I mentioned, we are giving this away today. I guess that wasn't the last time I was going to mention it. This software, there we go, I got it, will enable you to win a 1-year BirdDog Connect subscription. And if you haven't already entered, you just have another couple minutes to enter. And be sure to tune in for the next episode, because as always, these live shows are run with you in mind, putting the viewer first, because that is how we, drive these shows with your questions. And as Dan has said many times, your questions are very, very timely. So with that, I'm going to add my screen share. Share. And so those are our entries. I am going to collect these, copy this. We're going to go into our wheel of, oh, didn't mean to make that full size. Thank you, Windows. I will collect these and paste the names of those who entered. I'm going to click the middle, and then the winner is, oh, Martins. All right, congratulations to Martins. I will put this information, I'll hand this information over to the person responsible for authorizing that, and they will connect with you to find out what the email you're using for your BirdDog Connect, and then they will set you up for a year of BirdDog Connect. And so with that, I thank you all again for being here for this episode of BirdDog Live Session. And, as always, feel free to, if you haven't already joined the Facebook user group, as Dan says, that is a fantastic way to ask questions, learn the latest things that are going on. If you have questions about betas and things like that, or if you're having a particular issue, the team is in there. The team is very active and they can help you out directly. That's a great way to do it. And as always, there's the direct route through the website, email, and things like that. But being able to get an answer quickly through the group from other BirdDog users is also very handy as well. Because there's been many times when I'm fighting a particular problem and somebody else is like, oh, it's on this other screen. And it's a simple thing like that. And having someone else be able to answer that question quickly from anywhere else in the world is a great time saver. So with that, I will bid you all adieu for this episode of BirdDog Live Session. Thanks for watching.